I am Maria Garcia de Fleury. Luis Gonzaga was born in Castiglione, Italy on March 9, 1568, in a family of great nobles of the time. His mother, concerned about things of faith, consecrated him to the Virgin Mary and had him baptized, while the father was only interested in the worldly future of the son and that he would become a soldier like him. He had an excellent education among the noble and powerful. From the age of 5, together with his father, he visited the barracks and surrounded by soldiers, he learned the importance of being brave and the importance of sacrifice for great ideals. But he also acquired the rough vocabulary of the troops. Little by little, Luis grew in faith. At 13, he met Bishop Carlos Borromeo, who was impressed with Luis' wisdom and innocence and gave him First Holy Communion. Already at that time, the decision to dedicate himself to religious life was forming in him. Louis began to reject the atmosphere of fraud, vice, crime, lust, and superficiality that existed in the nobility and society, and began to live within the court an austere and modest life, full of constant piety practices, without neglecting his responsibilities in the cut. On August 15, 1583, while he was praying before the altar of Our Lady of Good Counsel in the chapel of the school of the Jesuits, he felt that the Virgin was telling him to enter the company of her Son. He did not hesitate, but it was not easy. His mother accepted it, but his father was very strongly opposed until he understood that the boy was determined and very strong, and this was what he wanted to do in life. The father gave in and wrote to the general of the Jesuits saying, I am sending you what I love most in the world, a son in whom the whole family had their hopes. On November 25th, 1585, he entered the Jesuit novitiate and became a model novice. He remained faithful to the rules and always sought to be in the most humble offices. 2 years later, Louis made perpetual vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and began his studies in theology at the then Roman College, the cradle of the Gregorian University. Louis stood as an outstanding student. In 1591, the plague broke out in Rome. Soon the hospitals were full. There was excessive poverty and poor hygiene. The Jesuits set up a makeshift hospital to care for the sick next to the Church of the Jesuits. Louis begged for food for the sick and cared for the dying with great dedication and devotion until he contracted the illness that kept him in slow, painful agony for 3 months. For his compassion and courage in the face of incurable diseases, St. Louis Gonzaga has become the patron saint of both the sick and the caregivers. Accompanied by his confessor, St. Robert Bellarmine, he prepared for death, gazing at the crucifix, and with the same name of Jesus in his lips, he died on June 21st at just 23 years of age. The Church declared him patron saint of youth. Luis Gonzaga was a brave and determined young man who stood out for his purity. He had the courage to say no to the environment of corruption, deceit, and superficiality in which he lived, and to dedicate himself, even against all odds, to a lifestyle that led him to imitate Christ, giving his life for others, convinced that with God we always win.